Here are 70 of the best VR games available to play on the PC. This isn't all the good games, I've not played every single game out there, so if you think I've missed some essentials, please leave a comment with your recommendations. We'll start with first person shooters, an obvious one which is Half-Life Alyx, which is my personal favourite game ever made. It's got the best visuals in VR, great pacing, and if you've played Half-Life 2, you'll love the story. It took me about 15 hours to complete, and when you're done with the campaign, you've actually got loads of great custom levels made by the community to play. I do have a video highlighting my top 20. Walking Dead Saints and Sinners is easily the best VR zombie game, and it's my personal favourite zombie video game ever made. It's got a 12-hour plus story-driven single-player campaign, visceral physics-based melee combat, as well as a lot of guns. You've got both humans and zombies to kill, and it's one of the best VR games ever made. Boneworks takes physics in VR to the extreme, with everything being physics-based, but it can cause some jank at times. Overall, it has some of the best VR has to offer, with an 8-hour campaign, plus loads of extras once you're done, like arena modes, handgun time trials, and it's got loads of different sandbox arenas you can play around in. Medal of Honor Above and Beyond might not be the game we set our expectations on, but it's still one of the best VR shooters out there. It's got a long, 12-hour single-player campaign with lots of cool moments like escaping a sinking ship, and hopefully when the game goes on sale, the multiplayer, which is actually really good, will get the player base it deserves. Hot Dogs, Horseshoes and Hand Grenades is a gun simulator with hundreds of realistic guns, but it also has several game modes to play in. The best one is Take and Hold, which sees you in a maze of corridors with random loot. You have to go through the corridors, and as the name implies, you have to take and hold certain points on the level. Vertigo Remastered might not be the longest game, around 4 hours, but it's highly underrated and it's essential for any VR gamer. It plays with scale really well, with you facing off against some huge boss fights. It's got lots of different environments and gameplay elements, and I personally enjoyed it from start to finish. No library would be complete without Superhot VR. It's short at around 2 hours, and it's probably overpriced now, but the way that you manipulate time with your body and progress through the increasingly difficult levels is like no other. But what about multiplayer shooters? Well, you've got Population 1, which is the newest on the list. It's a very popular, polished Battle Royale VR game. Pavlov is the game if you want mods, with loads of well-known levels from non-VR games, different game modes like TTT, it's got Nazi zombies, and now with the latest update you've got tanks. It's fast-paced fun, and there's something for everyone. Onward is a more tactical shooter, with lots of team-focused game modes where you need to work together. It's got high bullet damage, so you're not going to last long running and gunning in this game. Personal favourite is actually Contractors. It's got a good balance between Pavlov and Onward. It looks nice, it's got great gunplay, and now it's got custom map support. And with the Quest version going live, you've actually got a solid player base thanks to crossplay. What if you want to play with friends against AI rather than other people? All the multiplayer shooters do have some sort of co-op modes, but other games to consider include Zero Caliber. With a single player campaign, you can play through solo or with friends. Windlands 2 is a nice change of pace with fantastic movement system, letting you swing through the large world, taking on large boss fights with a bow and arrow with up to 3 other people. Arizona Sunshine may be getting old now, but as a co-op zombie shooter, it's still one of the best. Maybe until after the fall releases later this year. I'll throw in a couple of Oculus exclusives in there as well. You've got From Other Suns, which is a great co-op space adventure, with you trying to get back to Earth having to loot and deal with space pirates and other forces along the way. You've also got Stormland, which is a great open world game you can play through the entire game co-op. You can climb, fly and surf the clouds, hopping from island to island clearing out robots together. Some of the best hack and slash VR games include Until You Fall, which is a roguelike VR game with a really good combat system. You get into fights with enemies, having to cut them down, whilst also blocking their attacks by placing your swords in the marked places before they strike. It's pretty hard, so you better be ready to move your arms around quickly. Blade and Sorcery is what many people regard as the best melee-focused VR game, with some really polished physics-based combat. It's more of a sandbox right now, lacking in structured single-player content, but it has full mod support with a thriving community to keep you busy. If you want physics-based combat and a more complete and structured game, then you might want to take a look at Hellsplit Arena, which is a campaign with a progression. You have to earn money to buy weapons and gear. They're actually working on a big update which is going to revamp the career mode, so keep an eye out for that. Lastly, we've got Asgards Wrath, which is an Oculus exclusive, with probably the longest single player campaign from a ground up VR only game, at around 25 hours just for the main story without touching any side quests. It's one of the best VR games ever made with stunning visuals, and each chapter has you embody a different character with different abilities, and the environments all have their own unique look and feel. The combat does get repetitive after a while, but it is broken up with some light puzzles and exploration. It's a must-have VR game, even if you do have to play it through Revive. If you don't want to spend time in VR killing things, then puzzle games might be a good option. My favourites include The Room VR, which is the best escape the room type puzzler with some great visuals and some really well made puzzles that make good use of VR. It took me around 4 hours to play through. My favourite overall puzzle game is Shadow Point, which is an Oculus exclusive that has you using your hands to manipulate objects to make shadows. It sounds simple, but it gets very hard, and the developers did a really good job of keeping things fresh by adding different gameplay elements. It took me around 6 hours to finish, and it's a really underrated hidden gem. Another hidden gem is Xing The Land Beyond, which is a beautiful puzzle game that takes a good 10 hours plus to finish. It takes you to lots of different environments, from tropical beaches, rainforests and deserts. It's really well made with loads of polish. It's got some really good puzzles that involve changing the elements like the time of day or making it rain. The Talos Principle is an excellent port of the non-VR game where you have to go through some really nice looking levels redirecting lasers. This game has overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. It's a really long game with 10 hours plus of gameplay. Red Matter is a really good puzzle game set on a moon circulating Jupiter. It looks great, it's got some great puzzles that have you using your hands a lot, and it has some of the best hand presence in VR due to the way that the in-game hands have you holding onto a tool which looks like your motion controller. This game is going to take you around 3 to 4 hours to finish. If you want to move around in virtual reality, then rhythm games are a good and fun option. Beat Saber involves you slashing through blocks with lightsabers to the time of music. Audica has you shooting targets to the time of music. And Pistol Whip has you shooting human-like characters to the time of music. You've also got Dance Central, which is an Oculus exclusive, where you dance off with some annoying millennials in a nightclub. And then you've got Synth Riders, which has you glide your hand through balls to the time of music. Another genre that will get you hot and sweaty is horror. It's actually my personal weakness because I'm a chicken shit, but these are the ones that I could handle and I actually enjoyed. Layers of Fear VR is a port of the non-VR version. It looks great as long as you turn off temporal anti-aliasing and if you super sample as high as you can. It's got some great scares and really twisted moments, and it feels like a real trip playing it in VR. This one's going to take you about 4 hours to play through. This is not hardcore horror, but Westworld Awakening is an excellent VR game based on a TV show, but I don't personally feel that it's necessary to watch the show to play it. It tells the story of a host getting hunted by an axe murderer and has some of the most photorealistic human NPCs with excellent facial motion capture. It's another hidden gem that's going to take you around 4 hours to finish. Lies Beneath is an Oculus exclusive with a cel-shaded art style that really works with the theme of the game and looks great in the headset. It's got excellent audio that gets under your skin, and it's a real survival horror game that's not afraid to challenge you with limited ammo and lots of monsters to kill. This one will take you about 8 hours to finish. Transference is a game by Ubisoft with some great atmosphere and feels like you're in a psychological thriller with lots of strange things happening. It's got humans that look so realistic in the way that they moved, even just opening a door to see someone stood in front of me made me jump. And don't even get me started on the damn dog. When you finish shitting yourself, you're probably going to want to sit back and play something seated, and third-person games are perfect for that. My favourite is Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, which is the exact same game as the non-VR version, but played in VR, and it's absolutely brilliant. There are moments in this game that are so immersive, it feels like it was made for VR. It's absolutely stunning visually, and it's a game that takes you on a journey that stays with you for days. This game took me about 8 hours to play through. Moss is a third-person stroke first-person VR game where you play as a god-like character, and you also have to control a little mouse. It's like having these mini dioramas right in front of you, and the game encourages you to look around. It's a brilliant game that's a little short at around 3 to 4 hours. Make sure that if you do play it, that you find the floating green orbs that allow access to some secret garden levels. Trover Saves the Universe is a hilarious game with VR support. Just like Moss, it's a third-person and first-person game at the same time. If you like Rick and Morty or Justin Roiland's humour, it's a must-play. It's going to take you about 6 hours to play through. Two Oculus exclusives, you've got Chronos, which is a pretty hard hack and slash third person game made by some great developers, and it has a long 12-hour campaign. And you've also got Edge of Nowhere, which is a shorter 4-hour long survival horror type game. It's like a mix between the new Tomb Raider games and The Last of Us with slightly less polish. It's got a great story, and it really kept me going through the game. Some other games that you can play seated in VR are cockpit games, and there are loads of them. So you've got racing games. If you're into modding, then you need Assetto Corsa. There are so many mod-made tracks and cars, and even mods that add weather and day to night cycles. The cars feel great to drive, but I found it a little light on content for the single player side of things. A more complete game that looks great with loads of cars and tracks, and a good career mode is Project Cars 2. You've got day and night cycles, dynamic weather, it's definitely got it all. It just lacks some polish in areas, and the cars can sometimes drive a bit wonky unless you spend some time tweaking tyre pressures, etc. Automobilista 2 is a new racing simulator using the same engine as Project Cars 2. It looks pretty much as good as Project Cars 2, but the cars and AI feel overall better with clearly more time spent setting them up properly. It's getting new updates every month, including free cars and some tracks as DLC, and it's my new favourite racing game. Dirt Rally 2 is an amazing rally game with some really narrow rally stages. If you don't listen to your co-driver, you will crash. No other racing game will get your palms as sweaty, make you forget to stop breathing because you're concentrating so much. Grip got VR support and is a good futuristic racing game with some crazy racing up walls and on ceilings. You need to have a strong stomach though, as you're going to be bouncing all over the place, which can get disorientating. You've also got flying games. If you want a serious, hardcore space sim, then Elite Dangerous is the game for you. If you want something more casual with a story-driven single-player campaign and multiplayer, then Star Wars Squadrons is the one for you. If you want serious flight simulators, you've got DCS, which is set in the modern military period, or IL-2, which is set in the World War II era. And if you don't want to shoot things and just fly around the entire planet, you can do that with Microsoft Flight Simulator. If you're looking for something a bit more casual, then you could get Project Wingman, which is like Ace Combat, but be warned, you do need a very powerful PC to run this one well. One of the best ways to get longer, fleshed out games to play in VR is with ports of games, or games that have VR support. Subnautica has basic VR support, so you're using a gamepad or mouse and keyboard, but it's still fantastic being in and swimming through this underwater world. The Forest has better VR support with full motion controls, and so does No Man's Sky, including using your motion controls as a flight stick. The Solus Project is an excellent survival adventure game set on an alien planet with great visuals and some crazy dynamic weather, including tornadoes. You've got Skyrim, Fallout 4, and Borderlands 2, which have VR versions, which while not perfect ports, they're still great games, and both Fallout and Skyrim can be modded to make them even better. Another way to play full non-VR games in VR is through mods. You've got Alien Isolation and GTA 5, which can be played with a gamepad or mouse and keyboard. You've also got Doom 3 BFG and Outer Wilds that can be played in VR with motion control and full room scale support. Lastly, I'll go over some Oculus exclusives that I can recommend if you have an Oculus headset or if you don't mind using Revive. You've got Lone Echo, which is one of the best VR games out there, with a fantastic movement system and zero gravity. It's got AAA level standard of polish and visuals. It's got a great story that really pulls you through the game. Robo Recall was a launch game for the touch controllers made by Epic. It's fast paced, arcade fun, and it's one of the few games that I can actually tolerate playing with teleport movement. Audica 1 is a very nice looking game made by the developers of the Metro series. It's like a modern day Time Crisis with intense shootouts and a touch of horror. Wilson's Heart is like being inside an interactive movie with some really good storytelling and some great moments and set pieces. The Climb is still one of the best looking VR games today, which was made by Crytek. It's a simple concept that ends up being surprisingly fun due to the diversity of the climbs and the attention to detail in the world. Phantom Covert Ops is a stealth game that's pretty much like Metal Gear Solid, but you move around in a tactical kayak. So that's my 70 picks. There are actually so many more good VR games, and I could easily have taken it over 100, but I wanted to keep it relatively short. I know I've missed some like Rec Room or VR Chat, so please leave your recommendations in the comments, and maybe add a little description to help people decide if it's a game they would like or not. So next time when someone tells you that there's no good VR games, please let them know that they're talking bollocks. Oh, and subscribe.